Hello and welcome to episode 573 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. It is, of course, time for the weekly show you cannot live without, Market Monday. Yes, that's right. Each Monday, I go over the biggest risers and fallers in ADP, aka average draft position, from the previous 7 days, and discuss whether I'm buying or selling these players at their new prices. The idea is to get you up to speed very quickly on what's going on in the best ball markets. Before we get into it here today, reminder that if you are the type of person listening to a fantasy football market update podcast here in June, you should be putting your knowledge to work at Underdog Fantasy. Tons and tons of best ball action right now, including Best Ball Mania 4, $25 buy-in with this insane $15 million prize pool. Use promo code ETR when you sign up for a $100 matching deposit bonus. That's promo code ETR at UnderdogFantasy.com. All right. Let's begin with the biggest risers from the last 7 days. Pierre Strong is up 8.5 spots to 207th overall on Underdog. This stems from the James Robinson, not a surprise to anyone who's been paying attention for the last couple of months, but James Robinson was indeed cut last week. By the way, it's crazy how many super fans James Robinson has. I know he had that big year in 2020 on the Jaguars, but man, every time I tweet about James Robinson, this is going back to when he was, quote unquote, competing with Travis Etienne or when the Jaguars just gave up on him and then he went to the Jets and the Jets gave up on him. People still thought that James Robinson would have an impact in New England, just crazy. But anyways, James Robinson is gone from the Patriots now, leaving Ty Montgomery, Kevin Harris, and the aforementioned Pierre Strong to compete for the role behind Ramondre Stevenson. I know some people are on Ty Montgomery. He did play a bunch in week 1 of last year before getting hurt. I just can't see it with Ty Montgomery. Guy's 30 years old, on his 5th NFL team, has a total of 58 touches over the last 3 years. Meanwhile, we know Bill Belichick and the Patriots often redshirt guys as rookies. Kevin Harris, Pierre Strong were rookies last year, barely played. We also know that the Patriots prefer to have specific roles for running backs. It's not often there's a true workhorse. Doesn't mean there can't be, but not often there's been a true workhorse. So there's been, a lot up in the air here. Ramondre Stevenson's role last year when Damian Harris, and obviously Damian Harris is now on the Bills. When Damian Harris was out last year, Ramondre had one of the best RB usage roles in the entire NFL. Just an outrageous role, consistent 20+% target share, and also 80% plus of the running back touches of the goal line work. Do they want that though? Do they want that kind of usage for Ramondre Stevenson? Is that practical? I think that's a question that is fair to think about. My bet right now is on Pierre Strong filling some sort of James White kind of role. Pass downs, change of pace, and Kevin Harris is more of a direct backup on early downs to Ramondre Stevenson. I'd also add that there's some chance Leonard Fournette ends up in New England. There's some smoke there, and it would make sense. So I've been backing off Ramondre just a little bit for now, just letting this thing shake out. I think he could also get cheaper as people start to worry, casuals come in and they start to worry about the New England running back stuff. So waiting for Ramondre to get a little bit cheaper, and I've been taking last round and late round shots on Pierre Strong. Again, he has that James White build and James White game. I don't think it's crazy to think he could play that role. Speaking of roles that I find interesting in fantasy, the running back position, Antonio Gibson is up 5.6 spots to 107th overall. I've gone back and forth on Antonio Gibson this offseason, but I think I'm back in on him now. I was so excited for Gibson like 14 months ago when it looked like J.D. McKissic was gone. Remember, McKissic agreed to terms with the Buffalo Bills in free agency. Then the Commanders freaked out, somehow got him to renege on the Bills and come back, thus blocking Antonio Gibson's best asset, his pass catching. But now J.D. McKissic is really gone. The Commanders have Brian Robinson as the starter. They drafted Chris Rodriguez. Both those guys are power backs, grinders. So I think there's a real path here toward Gibson, who, remember, played a ton of wide receiver in college, to handle all the third down work, all the 2-minute work, all the 4-minute work, and some change of pace stuff in base. And that's assuming that he's able to earn that role. I also think that new offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, coming over from the Chiefs, he's going to increase the screen rate. And somewhere, the screens are somewhere Antonio Gibson should be the Commander's best option. And I thought the quote from Ron Rivera last week was at least notable. He said, Eric wants to make sure Antonio gets as many opportunities right now to show us what he's capable of, because I think that'll be a big part of the game planning. So, yeah, these kind of running backs are the kind we like to target in later rounds. Built-in high-value touches with upside for more if he can earn it, or if there's injuries to Brian Robinson. Remember, if you have DraftKit Pro, you do have access to our continuously updating list of late-round running back targets. Gibson is on there. DraftKit Pro is $49.99 available now. Final riser I want to mention was Cam Akers. Cam Akers is up 4.5 spots on Underdog. He's up 4 spots on FFPC. The funny thing is, if you zoom out and you look at Cam Akers, where he goes overall, 73rd overall on Underdog, 71st overall on DraftKings, 58th overall on FFPC. I mean, the wide receiver craze on Underdog is absurd. The running back craze on FFPC is equally as wild. Just be sure you're adjusting your thinking when you're playing between sites. But anyways, I honestly don't know what to think on Cam Akers. I had heard some really good info just prior to week 1 last year that the Rams were actually really low on Cam Akers. They wanted to give Kieran Williams and Darrell Henderson the work. Didn't get to see the Kieran Williams stuff play out as he got hurt on the opening kickoff week 1. But in week 1, Darrell Henderson did outtouch Cam Akers 18-1. And at that point, I thought it was over. I thought the Achilles injury was just too much. Akers would be out of the league soon. But he came roaring back somehow late in the year after a whole bunch of other ups and downs during the year. Late in the year, final 6 games, Cam Akers, 104 carries, 512 yards, 6 touchdowns on a really bad team. And he's still only 23 years old. So I'm up in knots about this Cam Akers stuff. We got some coach speak last week. Sean McVay says Akers is going to be a huge part of the Rams this year and a central figure in the offense. I don't take a lot from that, but it's at least notable. So look, Cam Akers is a talented guy with the potential to get 20 touches a game, and he's going in the 70s. I get it. On the other hand, I have concerns about how thin this offense is as a whole. Offensive line play, all the stuff that Cam Akers went through last year with the coaches at least showing a willingness to give up on him. And so I think running backs going in this range aren't great bets anyways. Running backs going in the 70s. And now that Akers is rising, I'm going to pass mostly. My teams are mostly taking wide receiver or tight end here anyways. On DraftKings, right around Akers, you can get Tyler Lockett, Michael Pittman, Dallas Goedert, Mike Evans, Kyle Pitts, Jordan Addison. They go around Akers on DraftKings, and I prefer them both structurally and as bets. All right, let's get to this week's fallers. First one I want to talk about is Juju Smith-Schuster. He's down 4 spots to 105th overall on Underdog, down 10 spots on DraftKings to 117th overall, down 5.5 spots on FFPC to 130th overall. My first instinct on Juju this year was just to be out. Was not very impressive in Kansas City, even though he had this insane opportunity catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. Now he goes to the dysfunctional Patriots offense led by Mac Jones. Patriots have been linked to DeAndre Hopkins pretty heavily. I give that maybe a 30% chance of happening. I mean, Nuke claims he wants to play for a contender. That's certainly not New England. They have this ridiculously hard schedule and not much offensive talent. Juju had some minor health thing pop up during OTAs and people freaked out. I don't think that's related to last year's issues or anything serious. But the issue is everything I just brought up, all the reasons that people don't feel great about Juju, that's the way everyone feels. Everyone just feels the way that I described. No one wants this guy. His ADP just keeps sinking and sinking. He's down to 117.5 on DraftKings. And we've docked him plenty in projections, season-long projections. We're being real conservative on the inputs. And he's still mathing out well above ADP, 15, 20 spots. So Juju Smith-Schuster is just one of those bets that I hate clicking. It feels awful. But it's the boring, ugly ones that no one wants. And I know Josh Jacobs is going to be the example of this forever. But it's those that tend to lend value with some of these veteran guys. On Juju specifically, we're talking about the 10th round for someone who's really, really likely to lead his team in targets per game. And he's also playing on a team that projects to be trailing a ton. So Juju, for me, I haven't been taking him a lot, but where he's now sinking to, a hold your nose and click it kind of play. Last faller I want to mention is DeSean Watson. He's down 3 spots on FFPC to 76th overall. He's going 83rd or 84th on Underdog and DraftKings. I'm not exactly sure why Watson is falling, to be honest. I think there's been, a general reset of the quarterback market on some sites. Seeing some quarterbacks just slip in all kinds of different tiers. But in terms of quarterbacks going in the middle-ish rounds right now, my favorites are certainly Tua Tagovailoa and DeSean Watson. We'll talk more about Tua on future pods, but on DeSean Watson, I mean, last year it looked like this dude literally forgot to play football. Like literally one of the worst quarterbacks in the entire league. A pathetic 6.5 yards per attempt. I mean, that's worse than Baker Mayfield, Davis Mills, Mac Jones last season. His QBR was 38.3. Colt McCoy, Zach Wilson, Matt Ryan type of levels. But I think it's important to put DeSean Watson's season last year into context. First of all, it was only 6 games, pretty small sample. He was suspended for the first 11. Those were Watson's first games since 2020. He missed the entire 2021 season as well. In 2 of those games that Watson played, the weather was unreal bad. That Saints game, if you guys remember, it was like 6 degrees with crazy wind. Ravens game in Cleveland wasn't as bad, but still brutal wind. So now he finally has all the suspension stuff behind him, full off season and in season in the scheme. Easily top 5 offensive line. Really good weapons, I think. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, Nick Chubb. And Thorman, our pace specialist, Thorman thinks the Browns are going to kick up the pace this year, which is always good. More plays, more chances. So in draft rooms where the elite quarterbacks go too high, higher than I think that they should, and this happens on DK a decent amount, I'm fine with these DeSean Watson, Tua types as my quarterback 1. All right. That is going to do it for this edition of Market Monday. Thanks to all of you for listening. If you have not subscribed yet to the Established Run podcast, be sure you are by searching for it anywhere podcasts are found. Also, be sure you're following me on Twitter for a ton more player takes at Adam Levitan. We'll be back later this week to talk with Silva about minicamp news, decide whether it's real or fake. And then we're also going to talk about some of our favorite late round best ball picks. Stay tuned for that. For producer Luke. For King Editor Jackson Kane. For the most beautiful beast in the world, Jerry. I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.